So the question is, what does love look like to you? And this is a question that I've asked myself throughout the years. What does love look like? Welcome to the Lips and Language podcast. My name is Cola, where we talk about life, love, and language. Remember to subscribe, like, and share. Let's get into today's topic. What is it conditional? Are there conditions? Is it unconditional? What does love look like to me? How do I want to be seen? How do I want to give love? How do I want to receive love? Now, I'm a firm believer in doing unto others as you want done unto them, unto you. And so that means that I truly love from a place that is genuine, that a place that is pure, because I want the same love back. Now, do I expect it? Sometimes, but I also know that people are fickle, and I know that people have different experiences, so they're not always going to love in the same way that I love, because it depends on what they've been through. A lot of times, how we're able to love has been shaped by our experiences, fortunately, unfortunately. But this is important because when we go through relationships, we always bring some type of expectation, and we rarely ever put ourselves in the other person's shoes of what love looks like for them. Now, in this conversation last week, I talked about the love of Jesus. And this week, I'm continuing that because there's something so simplistic in love in building a relationship with Jesus that many people, like I've had friends who are like, oh, sorry, I'm not religious, I don't do that. And I'm like, but really, you're building a relationship just like you would with your friends. You're building a relationship with God. You spend time with him, you talk to him, you listen. These are all things that you do in relationships. Now, if you're not good at building relationships, then I can understand why it'd be hard to build a relationship with God. And especially if you don't have a good relationship with your parents, that is even more of a challenge to see God as a good father versus just seeing him as a friend, right? But I had this thought, and my friend and I, it was like light bulbs went off when we were talking about it, because we're like, people don't realize that when you get into a relationship, you do have to compromise to some degree, right? There are things that you're going to have to give up if you truly love the person. And I'm not talking about people trying to change you, but when you're changed for the better, what harm does it do to you? Okay, so for the sake of this conversation, whenever I say compromise, what I actually mean is sacrifice. And I know you're going to be like, why? Well, I had said years ago that when you compromise, you accept standards that are lower than is desirable. And we're not in the season of doing that. When you sacrifice, you're laying something down. And so whenever you hear me say compromise, just understand what I actually mean is sacrifice. And to me, this message was too good for me to redo it. So please just understand what I'm trying to get at here. I really mean sacrifice, which is the act of giving up something valued for the sake of something else regarded as more important or worthy. And so when it comes to sacrificing in love, we value what that person's saying. We value whatever Jesus is saying as more important than what we ourselves are wanting to give up. And so not that they're more important than us, more important than what we're laying down, right? And so when you understand the difference between compromise and sacrifice is definitely the word that depicts the love that I'm talking about more than compromise. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you love somebody, if you're in a relationship with somebody and they don't like smoking, they don't like, yes, they met you that way, yes, they chose you that way, but y'all both decided to go on this health kick. And part of that health kick, one of the things that they kind of suggest is, why don't you put down the cigarettes? Now, you could be like, mind your business. They gonna smoke anyways. Or you could realize that out of their care for you, they just are expecting something different. They want you to live long and they want you to breathe naturally. And so they kind of ask you to put down the cigarettes, right? Now, again, sometimes when we get really defensive and independent, we like, well, this is my body. I'm going to do what I want. But if you can look past that, you'll see that, hey, maybe it is that they just care. Maybe this is just their way of showing me their love. And, there's no harm in doing it. It's the same thing with Jesus. A lot of the times when we come, we actually expect that we have to be clean, perfect, cleansed off, all the rest of it. We're like, we're not good enough for Jesus. We're too dirty. We're too out there. We're too weird. We're too strange. And realistically, Jesus, like, y'all don't need to do all that. Like, you, as you are is how I accept you to be. And the thing is, when you go along this journey with God, just like when you get into a relationship, the things that you start in the beginning, along the way, you start to give up things because you realize that A, is not beneficial, or B, you could do something differently. You could have a healthier life if you leave this alone, right? If you put this away. Now, in your single years, you might be somebody who's always in your phone, always just texting on social media. It's like attached to your hand, right? But when you get into a relationship, one of the things you might have to do is put down your phone. Now, it's not unreasonable for the person to want your attention. It's not unreasonable for them to want to spend time with you. It's the same thing with Jesus. It's not unreasonable for him to want to sit with us, for him to want us to read our Bible, for him to want us to, sing songs and the rest of it. It is like any other relationship. When you spend time with somebody, you give them your time. You give them the quality of your time. You don't give them the leftovers. You don't give them your last 5 minutes of the day, because who can build a relationship like that? If you're in a relationship and you're asking somebody, hey, can you spend time with me? They're like, absolutely. The whole day goes by. You don't get to talk to them. And all of a sudden, at the very crux of the night, they're like, here, let's spend some time. But you're already tired. You're already not in the mood. Then what are you going to do? You're like, okay, you're going to feel like this person doesn't really want to hang out with you, and they're just doing it out of necessity, out of you asking them to. That's not a good feeling. And I know I jumped right in, but something about Love Month. I've always loved Valentine's. I've always loved love. I've always been such a fan of it because I know how powerful it is. Now, mind you, if you read my story, love has not been kind to me, but there's something so pure about it. There's something so beautiful about it that no matter how much time love has hated on me, I'm still going to open myself up. I'm still going to be ready for love because I can't paint everybody with the same brush. I can't put everybody in the same box. And that's just like when I was building with God, building my relationship. I couldn't just be like, well, all these times I felt alone, all these times I felt rejected or let down, I'm not going to try. I had to try again. I had to say, you know what? Let me try, but this time let me be for real. I already know the things that I want to put down. And it's not even like, honestly, I didn't even give up sex because God said don't have sex. I gave it up because I got bored of it. I gave it up because I was tired, because my body was like being used and abused in ways that it just wasn't becoming of me, right? Like there's a lot of bad habits that I had to give up, but that was because it wasn't healthy and it wasn't leading to a peaceful life. The life I've lived, the last 9 years since knowing God, man, there's been some battles, there's been some tears. That stuff is true. But there's also been a level of peace. There's also been a level of I trust you. There's also been a level of like I'm holding on. And that is priceless. That is something that I wouldn't have gotten elsewhere. That's something that I needed back then. And I was just like begging for. And I'm just grateful that I made the right decision to do something differently. So many times we're holding on to the things that hurt us and expecting a different result. And it's like the minute we let go, things would flow. The minute we let go, things would look differently. The perspective would shift. But we're so bent on having things our way. We're so bent on control, especially if we've lived a life of not having control, especially if we've lived a life of things kind of really seem chaotic or just in turmoil and are unstable. We're like, okay, there's one little thing I can control, I will control him. And the thing with God is he wants all the control. Like, because he just knows better. He wants the control in, not to control us because we have free will. We can do whatever we want, right? But to be to allow a creator, the one who created you, to have control, to know the direction in which you're going. It's like allowing your parent to really be a parent to you. Like, sometimes we're like, oh, they don't really know. And honestly, sometimes they are correct. Sometimes they did know better. But we're just so stuck in our ways that we don't even want to admit that they could be right. It's like the same thing. He guides us on a path that is not going to harm us. He guides us on a path that is better for us. That when we look back, when we look behind us, when we look after we've crossed, we're like, you know what? Yeah, you did know better. And everything comes down to love. Like, discipline is out of love. Him guiding us is out of love. Him showing us a way is out of love. Us created, he made us out of love. Everything comes to the root of love. But if you don't know who you are, if you don't know that you're loved, if you don't know that you're worthy, you give it up to anybody. If you don't know that you're loved and worthy, you give it up to anybody. And it don't even take much. And the only thing is, the person that you give it up to, they might take everything from you and just leave you completely broken and destroyed. And then what do? Who picks up the broken pieces? We have to be so intentional about guarding our hearts. We have to be so intentional of making sure that the thing that God has allowed us to have, our beautiful souls, that we are making sure that we do the best to watch over it. Now, I paused because I'm like, I had this thought of like, yeah, there's people out here who will do evil. There are people out here who will hurt you. But even when people do hurt, even when people do cause destruction in our lives, we're still responsible for getting it back on track. We're still responsible for not letting that thing hurt us. We're still responsible for not letting it take us out. Did you know that ignoring your self-awareness will keep you stuck and emotionally imprisoned? Man, we go through life with this hustle mentality, going, never taking a moment to stop, to breathe, until life kind of just spirals out of control. But it is time to take control. It is time to experience the freedom of your most authentic self. And I have a gift for you. I have witnessed the tears, the happiness, the joy, the transformation when I have done this workshop in jail, in colleges, in high schools. And I want to offer this to you. So, click the link below, get access to the free mini course. There's 4 videos. You are going to enjoy it. And let's get to the other side of healing, because you deserve to show up authentically as you. There's no trauma that can take us out of this world. Only us ourselves are the ones that can take us out, because we allow the trauma to define who we are. We allow it to run us. We allow it to control us. The only person who has the authority to allow us to leave is God. When people commit suicide, they're taking their lives in their own hands. And so this concept of love being sacrificial, this concept of love being something that when you love someone truly, there's certain things that you will give up. There's certain things that you will leave behind. There's certain things that you're like, you know what? I've done it my way for so long. I want to do it a different way. I've fought for so long. I want to try not fighting. I want to try being in peace. So I'm gonna give up arguing. I'm gonna give up being defensive. I'm gonna give up playing the victim. We have to give up certain things to follow Jesus. We have to give up certain things to build relationships. As I said, this conversation is twofold. It's about Jesus and relationship, but it's also about relationships that we have with other people. It's also relationships we build lovingly with going towards marriage for those who are single, but in a marriage for those who are married. Everything comes down to compromise. If you do everything your own way, if you do everything one-sided, that's not a well-rounded relationship. That's a one-sided relationship. And one-sided relationships tend to lead to destruction. Why? Because we don't know everything. We can't do everything. You know what I love? I love that God made us so that we need other people. That there's certain giftings in me, but then there's certain giftings in other people. There's certain opinions in me, but there's certain opinions in other people. And together, we come up with a bomb-tastic plan, or we come up with a really great way to move things forward. Right? Have you ever gone through a situation, and beyond the fact that they say two heads are better than one, have you ever gone through a situation and you really can't think of why this, like anything related to, you can't think of a solution, you can't think of how to get yourself out of it, you're so stuck. Then all of a sudden, your friend, family, somebody says one thing, light bulbs go off. And you're like, yo, why didn't I think of that? It's because we're not meant to think of everything. We're not meant to do everything by ourselves. We are truly meant to be in relationship with other people. We're truly meant to be in communication with other people. But we have to understand that when we get into relationships, we are going to have to learn to live with other people. Now, that might be challenging for some people who are used to being alone, who everything seems to get on their nerves. They got all these pet peeves, but there's an importance in allowing the perspectives of other people to come into our lives. There's an importance in allowing the words of Jesus to come into our lives. It shifts our mind. It's how we don't stay stuck. It's how we don't stay in one particular space. We have to be ever growing. Like, we have to be ever maturing. The people who don't ever want to change, want to stay the same, they will have their growth stunted. It's not becoming of a person to just sit around and allow life to pass them by without even making an effort. We weren't called to just sit still. Like, be still is different than sit still, right? Like, we're called to be still, to be at peace, to be calm, to wait on the things that we need. But even in waiting, we're waiting actively. So we're still moving, we're still getting things done, but we're just not controlling everything. That might mean a season of more rest, right? But all in all, it works out for our good in the end. And so when it comes to Love Month, please understand this is a month where we are called to love ourselves, yes, and to love others. Again, I always say that you can't love others if you don't love yourself. Like, that, it just doesn't work. You can't even open your heart up to Jesus for love if you don't even know anything about love. You have to understand love. You have to understand that love is sacrificial. You have to understand that love is giving. You have to understand that love is kind, that love is patient. Now, I'm quoting 1 Corinthians 13 in a way, but all these things are love. All these things come together to formulate love. And it is the love that sets us free. It is a love that is powerful. Like, love is so powerful. It could turn the coldest of hearts warm, but it could also turn the warmest of hearts cold. Have you ever seen people who, they're a great person, they were so loving, but all of a sudden somebody did them wrong and they cold as ice. They out here to cut everybody. They out here starting fights with everybody. They out here not caring about nobody else but themselves, right? That's because love is one of those things that it feeds people. It feeds addiction. That's why people love their drugs. They love the things around them. They love money, right? That's the thing that feeds them. Love is influential. Love is impactful. Love can do greater things than people can even conceptualize. Love heals. Love gives. Love is really just one of those things that you want in your life. And for me, loving by myself was not enough. I needed the love of Jesus. And there's a lot of people who get into this idea of, like, because often they've heard quoted, come as you are. They think, okay, well, you should accept me just as I am. This is how I am, and I'm not growing. That's a silly way to look at love. A person doesn't have to love all your bad attitudes. Now, mind you, a person can love you for, the good parts of you too. But in being loved, there's a part of you that's going to want to give up some of those bad. There's a part of you that's going to want to seek, okay, well, I know if they like this, then I can give that up. It's the same way with the Lord. When you know that God loves you freely and unconditionally, The more you get into relationship with God, the more you seek Him, the more you sit with Him, the more you get to know Him. You're just like, you start to feel like, you know what? I love Him so much. I want to give this up. I love Him so much. I want to give that up. You don't hold on to the same behaviors. You say, out of everything that I've been through, I haven't experienced a love like this. And because I haven't experienced a love like this, I am willing to try something different. I am willing to give up the things that I've held on to that have been hurting me and I didn't even know it, that have been cutting me so deep and I didn't even recognize that it was cutting me that deep. Sometimes we have memories that go so far back or hidden and we don't even get a chance to freely express them until someone loves us and it touches that soft spot and then we're like, whoa. What are you doing? Why are you touching that area? And it's because certain areas can't stay. The bad has to come out. The love will ease it on out. When you start loving somebody who's been hurt, genuinely, unconditionally loving them, yeah, one, they could lash out, but two, when they start to feel safe around you, that's when you get the opportunity to really love them. That's when you get the opportunity to really show them how much you care, to really show them how much you desire to be around them, how much you desire for them to be around you, how much, you desire to grow in a specific way. And that's when you see the true transformational power of love. It is such a beautiful thing. It is such a beautiful thing. We must remember that love is moving and we're always going to have to give up something. We just have to figure out what that is. What that is. And is it worth giving up? For me, it was worth giving up the sadness. It was worth giving up me trying to do everything on my own. It was worth giving up me trying to be an independent woman because, child, I don't want to. I don't want to think of everything. I don't want to be the smartest person in the room. I don't want to be the only loving person in the room. I want to love and be loved. I want to give love and get love. And so, love is worth it. It is truly worth it. It is worth it beyond anything that it doesn't matter how much times it's knocked me down. It is worth every feeling. It is worth every smile. It is worth every tear. It has been worth every journey that I've gone on. Because the love that I have, the love of Christ that's inside of me, that is what brings me joy. So if you don't know this love, I pray that you find this love. I pray that you say, God, I need that love. And then you allow God to do the rest. Let go of control. It'll be worth it. Y'all, I wanted to keep it shorter today. The last few podcasts have been long. But as I said, the God and Sex series has come to a close. We're into Love Month. And so in this month, allow the love to pour from the screen into your heart. I pray that you heard something. I pray that you got something from this. Love is important. Don't ignore it. Don't push it away. Really, truly receive it. Accept it. And learn to give it out as well. To yourself and to others. Y'all know what I'm going to say. Check the outro on your way out. Don't click off before it's done because you're going to want to hear it. Let's get to the other side of healing. Y'all, be safe. What would it look like if we were a people that were healed? What would it look like if we were people that believed in doing the work necessary to remove trauma, to get through grief, and to come out on the other side? Man, we think that therapy is the only way. Therapy is a great way, but there's also a creative way that can help us get through this process. My name is Kola. I am an amazing artist, and I have a program called Restore and Embrace Myself. It is all about the healing and the getting through and the getting over. And if nobody told you, you are special and you are so deserving of so much more in this world. So get in contact with me because I'd love to work with you.